The first ever sheepdog trial took place on the hill by our farm in 1873. So that's
Wow.
quite, something important for our family. I was finishing school, so that was my chance then to come home and farm and to start up again. I think it's really difficult to find, to begin with, like the perfect breed. There isn't such thing as a perfect breed. It's wrong really that we can't be producing the food here where we've got the best climate possible to be producing plenty of grass.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 322 of Meet the Farmers. I'm your host, Ben Eagle. Today on the show, we are in North Wales, near Bala, and I'm speaking to Erin McNaught. Erin took on her family's farm at the age of just 18 as the fourth generation of the McNaught family on the farm. They work around 400 ewes split into Welsh Mountain and Texel flocks. They also rear calves from local dairy farms. Erin is a really skilled sheepdog handler. And by the sounds of it, this sort of runs in the family, but I'm going to dig into that during the interview. In 2018, she won the Young Handlers title at the International Sheepdog Trials. And the following year, was part of the duo who won the One Man and His Dog trophy. She is an appointee on the NFU Cymru Livestock Board. She's Deputy County Chair of her local county NFU. She won the Future Farmer of Wales 2025 award as part of Farmers of Wales. She's got a degree in geography and environmental science, and she has also appeared, which I think is the most impressive accolade here, she's appeared on Blue Peter before. Erin McNaught, welcome to Meet the Farmers. It's great to have you on the show.
Excited to be on the podcast.
Let's start with where you are, first of all, because it's a beautiful part of Wales. I know it fairly well. Tell us a little bit about the landscape and where you are.
Located in Bala up in North Wales, and it's quite a tough, challenging landscape, I suppose. It's very hilly, rocky, but the main thing is we get plenty of rain, so we can grow good grass up here. But yeah, challenging terrain, and Welsh mountain sheep are usually the most suited for the mountains we've got here.
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this on the 17th of November. It's been pretty wet, let's say that, the last week. How's it been with you?
We're lucky. We're quite, high up in terms of, level from the sea. So we're quite good. We are near a few rivers, but they don't flood necessarily. So the land is pretty safe. But yeah, I suppose it just makes working every day a bit more difficult when you're in wellies and mud and but I'm just sure we'll be complaining in a bit that it's frosty and that everything's frozen up. So it's
of course.
just different challenges with different weather. And yeah, usually there'll be snow in a bit maybe. So that'll bring another challenge.
Yeah, of course. So you are a multi-generational family farm. You're the fourth generation. Paint us a picture of the farm, what it's like, the land, and just tell us a little bit more about it.
The farm is owned by my granddad. My mother then is the third generation, but then she left the farm to go out to work. And then it's kind of like skipped then on to me for the day-to-day running. A bit of a backstory. So ever since I was a young girl, I always had an interest in the farm. But obviously my Tide, or granddad, but Tide in Welsh, as we would call him, he was getting on a bit and wanted to retire. But farmers never retire, do they?
Oh, no.
They always carry on. But he rented a bit of the land out, but promised me one day when you're old enough, you can be farming and we'll have all the land back in hand and you can start up again. So then, yeah, I was waiting then for that chance, but it kind of came at a difficult time. So when I was doing my GCSEs in school, my Tide fell quite ill, but in that period as well, things kind of were a bit challenging with the tenancy that we had on the farm. So then we kind of made the decision, well, it's now or never. I was finishing school, so that was my chance then to come home and farm and to start up again. So we went from having 20 sheep that my tide just had, to take over, and then I think it's been 4 years now, I've got it up to 400. So it's
Wow.
still a work in progress. But I didn't neglect my studies at all. I went back to do my A levels in school and went on to do a degree after, but doing it in hand with building up the farm. So it's been a good experience, really challenging at times, but I'm really enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a thing. We've had a number of people on the show who have taken on a farm at a really young age, and I'm always so impressed with just that sheer energy and the guts that you put into it when you sort of first take it on. But it must be fairly daunting at the same time.
At the time, it was hard because I went back to school to do my A levels, and with mum being a secondary school teacher as well in the local school, so obviously she was teaching me my A levels. She was teaching biology. I was doing geography and chemistry, and I had good A level results. And I had A stars and A's throughout. So then the expectation was that I went on to do a degree.
Yeah,
But when I said, no, I'm not going to university, I didn't want to go to university. you know, teachers, I was frowned upon, it was a bit like, really? Are you
yeah.
really going home to farm? Like, what is, it's not something that is expected of you, maybe. But I didn't let that, I was determined. Actually, when I was doing my A levels, I had another job milking on another farm, and I knew then when I took a gap year that there'd be a job for me there while also as well building up the farm at home. So I kind of had set out my year for my gap year, so to suppose. So that's why I called it. But then at the end of the gap year, I kind of I knew that doing a degree was in my mind, but I was kind of in a bit of I was torn between I didn't want to leave the farm, so how can I do a degree? So that's why I did a degree through the Open University, because it gave me a chance to still be able to farm, but also do my studies then, in the evenings or on
Mm.
a rainy day, I could then balance the both. But yeah, it was challenging in that terms, but as well, it was the best time to do it. It was the best time to come home to farm because I had my tides guidance, and that's invaluable. And doing it with him has just been, yeah, amazing. And it's given him a new lease of life as well. He's thriving now and seeing the farm back up and running again and doing well. And yeah, it's something that he's very proud of. And I'm loving the fact that I'm able to give him that as well. Yeah.
So, can you tell me a little bit about the farm today? You're running Welsh Mountains and Texels. Clearly, both. I'm assuming very, very different outputs here, but just tell me sort of the logic between running them separately and the differences between how you run them.
So the farm is split in kind of two. We've got the mountain farm, which is kind of towards the out of Bala, and then we've got where the farm itself is. It's on the kind of the lowlands of Bala. So kind of to optimize the two sort of landscapes we've got. That's why I wanted to go for the Texel crosses. We are trying to run a blue face in through them to get more of a mule, but the idea is to be creating or to be producing early spring lambs, so that you can hit the early market, so to speak. So we land these in February, and then they're sold, well, before June, hopefully. And then obviously you've got the polar opposite. You've got the Welsh mountain, and they're up on the mountain, and they thrive on rough pastures, and as well the environmental work they do is just amazing. So I think it's important for us as a farm to have the both and to optimize the both as well. The Welsh mountain don't lamb until April, and obviously the lambs are slower growing as well. So that's the idea behind it. But at the moment, we obviously with the Welsh mountains, we're having our own replacements. But with a Texel flock, I'm buying in Texel ewes each year. But I'm
Okay.
hoping now. So the idea is, so on the Welsh mountains, we're putting a Talabont ram through them. And the Talabont ram is kind of a more South Walian type ram. So the Welsh Mountain are kind of typically for having like quite a red face, kind of a smaller ewe. So we're putting a talbot through them, which is more like a chivioty type. So then we're kind of getting the white faces and a bit stronger bodied ewe. And then I'm putting a Texel Cross blue face then on those ewes. And then the idea then is I'll have my own replacements for the Texel flock. But this, we've kind of, I think it's really difficult to find to begin with, like the perfect breed. There isn't such
Yeah.
thing as a perfect breed. But I've tried a few things and, obviously speaking with my tide for experience and knowledge and kind of hopefully now creating a ewe that is suitable for the farm and that can work in the two systems as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Things take time, don't they?
And even the quality of them, it's at the beginning I had to kind of buy Welsh shoes that maybe weren't up to kind of, they're okay but not the best. And it's over time then that we get the quality back. But I'm quite, I'm really happy with the time we've had. We've been topping the market, we've been having good prices, and and I think that's especially down to my tides guidance as well. He's quite knowledgeable in the sheep world. And yeah, really kind of proud of how we're progressing. But obviously, there's always room to improve. I'm guessing that
Yeah.
you working better for us is something that's important looking forward as well, and especially when we're faced with high input costs and also different things. So getting that genetic right is something that's going to be important for me moving forward now.
Yeah.
And the same with it's all about getting things working on the farm. And my tide had a suckler herd, and I could see things weren't kind of working how I think they should have been working. We were having difficulty calving, had these big limousines that obviously weren't the easiest to handle, had lot of cesareans, and also trouble getting them back in calf. So that's why I made the decision then to go into rearing dairy cross beef calves, which was quite,
Okay.
my granddad, yeah, he loved the sucklers, that was his thing. And he was obviously taking them to the market to be sold as stores and having top prices. And it was difficult then to kind of move towards the dairy cross beef type. But we've been doing it for a few years. We're now doing about 40 a year, which we hope to increase in time. But our Belgian blues that we sell at 12 months old as stores, they're averaging 1,500 for us, which is it's brilliant. And I know the prices have been good anyway. But there's nothing better. I do quite like taking a bunch. We recently took a bunch of Aberdeens, having 9 in the ring at the same time, all uniform, all the same, and having good prices is something that's very rewarding. But it is working well for us, and it's also optimizing the shed space. And rearing calves is obviously a quicker turnover than rearing a suckler calf, for example. Um, but it's I do love the suckler herds, and the next investment will be to buy in some maybe some blue grey heifers,
Right.
but to keep them on the mountain farm. So they won't be coming near the shed. They'll be staying up on the mountain and more for environmental work. We in the mountain, a lot of trees growing from the forestry. Obviously, the seedlings have germinated on our land, a lot of shrub and things. So I think it will be beneficial for the land to have cattle back up there. So
Mm.
that's the plan for the future, but we'll see.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's just a quick comment on prices. You mentioned it's been a good time. I mean, certainly for beef, but I mean, at a time when there's lots of doom and gloom in the industry, there's, I mean, the lamb prices as well, potentially on the up as well.
It's been a good year really, and I can't complain really. My partner's actually he's a livestock dealer, so he buys for a lot of abattoirs and things, and I kind of see firsthand really of how the industry is going and the prices and things. And for this year, we can't complain. It's been good. It's been quite fair and
Yep.
consistent throughout really. Um, can I see it changing? I'm not sure. Beef, yeah, it is high, and I think the problem is the higher we go, the more difficult it gets for the supermarkets, and then the price of beef for the public then increases. So I think we need to kind of find a balance because obviously that the public needs to be buying our meat and at a decent price and not opting for the cheaper option, which is usually obviously imported meat. So it's kind of keeping that balance really of where the farmer's happy and also where our consumers are happy as well.
Yeah, yeah, that word balance. We hear it we hear it a lot in farming in many different contexts now.
Of course, the inputs, our prices have gone up, so the price of the animal is obviously, it should be higher, but it's just balancing that. I don't think our margins are any bigger
Yes.
as farmers, but yeah, it's something that we're always having to deal with, isn't it?
Yeah. Just on that environmental side, have you had much involvement with Welsh government schemes?
Yeah, so with in Wales now, we're going through the phase of the sustainable farming scheme where that'll be implemented next January, or that's when the opening window will occur. So I've been doing a lot of work through NFU with the consultations and obviously giving my opinion. Um, but in terms of previously, we've not been in any environmental schemes as a farm just because of them being quite restrictive. But now moving forward with the SFS, because obviously it's taking place of the BPS payments, which is
Yeah.
our single farm. So obviously now we're going into the SFS, where there's 12 universal layers. Sorry, 12 universal actions, but it's 3 layers. So you've got your universal actions, which every farmer has to do to get the payment. Then you've got your optional layer and collaborative layer, which you can obviously opt to do or not to do. And within those actions, there are a lot of focus on the environment, for which, so there should be, and as farmers, we should be working with the environment as best as we can and having that balance between food production and obviously caring for our environment and, being, it's all about farming sustainably, isn't it? And I think sustainable is a big word. And through, those actions, there are some very interesting things such as, doing your soil sampling, which is an important thing for farmers to be doing, health, so doing our health reviews. There's 10% habitat as well that every farmer must have. And yeah, they're all quite maybe controversial because you're having to do more for the payment than you had to do before. But they're they are actions that every progressive farmer should be doing maybe. But where I think it is wrong is the payment you get. So it's based on the cost occurred and income forgone. So
Right.
the
Okay.
cost of doing these actions doesn't necessarily reward you as they should. So there's still, a bit of controversy. But, yeah, I suppose it's how the government sees it. It's what they want for the future of agriculture. And I must say that NFU and other lobbying bodies have been doing a really good job in voicing our opinions. And they have changed as well. It was 17 actions, it's now down to 12. We did have a 10% tree cover, which has now been removed. So yeah, it's been a good step in the right direction, but obviously there's still some more fine tweaking to do, I suppose.
Yeah, because I mean that said, certainly if you look in the farming press and some of the figures that are put forward, it's there's still pointing to a net loss of jobs and a net loss of income, right?
Yeah, so there is still work to be done. I think there's the latest economic module estimates a 5% loss, was it 4% reduction in farm labour and 16% reduction in income, which is obviously, dramatic and very scary. But I think compared to the first module, it is a slight improvement. So there is room to go. And I think it's just getting that message across is how important food to be producing food. We're facing a very scary future where food security is something, that is being talked about. And if we can't produce it here, then, the volatility of having to import it is just, yeah, it's wrong really that we can't be producing the food here where we've got the best climate possible to be, producing plenty of grass, and then to be obviously be producing a protein out of it after. And so I think we're in a really good position as a country to be producing, but it's just getting that balance right between, caring for the environment and being productive as well. And maybe at the moment, Welsh government doesn't quite have that right, maybe. As some could
Hmm.
argue with the new scheme. So it's hard to kind of balance the environmental aims with obviously production from farm. Yeah.
Hmm. I mean, bringing it back to your on-farm level, moving ahead, moving post BPS into SFS. Um, are you confident? And we've used the word balance already during this interview. We've used the word sustainable. Um, are you confident in the sustainability? And I'm talking about the economic side of sustainability here for the future of your business. You have hopefully a long career ahead of you. So if you're farming in several decades' time, um, are you confident that you'll still be farming then in the same place in the same way?
No, I'm not confident. I think it is a scary time. And as a business, we've had to diversify, as many other businesses have. So I've recently started a diversification called Pandy Farm Tours, where people, usually from America, Swedish, we've had a lot of different nationalities come onto farm and have a farm tour and learn about Welsh farming. And it's
Okay.
something that's been, yeah, that's looking really good as a business for us. But obviously, it's a shame that as a from a personal viewpoint, that I can't make a living from the farm alone. I've had to think of a diversification, and as well, that's was the reason of doing a degree as well, because it was like a plan B. It's
Yeah, of
something that
course.
I've got. If I needed a second job, that I've got in my bag, like a tool, to progress. So I think that's a real shame that, and the farm is around 250 acres, and it's not a big farm. Not all. There's much bigger farms, but it is, quite a reasonable size farm. And obviously, my granddad made a good living from the farm. My mother couldn't. The farm couldn't um, make a living for two people. But yeah, moving then on to myself, I still think to make a viable future, you do need a second income stream. So from that point of view, yeah, it is a shame. Is things going to get better? Yeah, they're thinking kind of ahead with the population growing. We still need to be eating. So there's still going to be need for farmers. Is that going to get better? Is people going to realize that in the future? Let's hope so. But at the moment, looking at the farm itself, yes, it's turning over, it's ticking over, but not, yeah, not enough to be giving myself an income. No.
Let's talk about sheepdogs, because this I'm really interested in, especially the sort of heritage of your family with this as well. But I mean, you're highly skilled at this, clearly. I mean, when did you first get into handling, and what drew you personally into it?
It's something that's been in the family for four generations. I often joke that it's in the blood, but the history of sheepdog chairing is quite deep in the soil as well. The first ever sheepdog child took place on the hill by our farm in 1873. So that's
Wow.
quite something important for our family, that that it's happened here. And it all was a bit of backstory. All it was because two landlords, the Rewlast landlord in 1873 and a Scottish landlord was fighting, who had the best dogs. Well, the
Okay.
only way, you could tell which country had the best dogs was through a sheepdog competition. And that's how the idea of a sheepdog trial was born, that
Uh,
farmers would come together and compete and, do a kind of an obstacle course. It's not an obstacle course, but that's the idea.
yeah.
It's basically elements that kind of, that you would do on a farm, such as taking sheep through a gate or putting them into a pen or splitting them from each other. But doing it in a competition as a, in a competition setting. Doing it in a competition, and that's how it was born, and it was something my family have been, yeah, my fourth generation doing it. I started quite young, probably too young, probably when I think I was about 10 years old when I first competed. But at that time I was using my mother's dogs. So she was a really famous handler. Actually, she was the first woman to get into the Welsh team, so she was quite a
Wow.
trailblazer herself. So I was always inspired by her. So I think I competed first when I was about 10 years old with my mum's dogs. But border collies are quite they were a one person dog. They're quite, they're faithful to their trainer. So they never worked as well for me than they did for my mum. and it was a complete disaster. The first ever competition I tried, and luckily it was my local competition in Bala, where we have as a family, along with the other committee, we do it every year. So it's quite,
Okay.
it was only familiar faces watching me, luckily. Um, but yeah, I suppose then that kind of motivated me to finally get my own dogs and start competing back again. And that happened when I had my first bitch called Moxie. And yeah, she was an absolute superstar for me. We, after a week of buying her, so I bought her from Ireland, which is another story in itself. But after a
Okay.
week of bringing her home, I won my first competition with her. So
Wow.
we
Good
absolutely
sign.
clicked. Um, it probably helped that she stayed in the house with me. It wasn't intentional, but the first night we brought her home, obviously we opened her out and she walked straight into the house, and that's where she has been ever since. And I tried putting her in the kennels, because at the time I was going to school, but she'd only jump out and then try and find me. So yeah, um, Moxie has been a special one, and I think what she's done for me. We won the International Young Handlers. She's been an absolute superstar. But unfortunately, soon after winning that, she was diagnosed to be diabetic, so I had to
Oh no.
retire her early. And she's still with me now. She's actually sitting by my side here
Oh,
at the grand old age of 12. Um, yeah, not as she is slowing down, and she's pretty old and knackered, but she's been an exceptional dog for me. But obviously, ever since then, there's been other dogs as well, but she's always been that one special one. Yeah.
hmm. Who are you working at the moment?
So at the moment, I've got Annie and Roy, and I've got a little young bitch coming up called Maggie. But I don't compete as much as I did that back then. I had the time back then. Obviously, the farm was still in its early days, so I had time to go out and compete on the weekends. Now I'm finding it more difficult to get the time. Weekends are just there's always jobs to do, and to kind of go away from the farm for a couple of hours is more difficult than it was. So I'm not competing as much as I did. But I'm hoping, when one day it'll be quiet and I can go back competing. But it's difficult because you need a certain type of dog to be able to be good at competing. So,
Okay.
you know, for farm work, you need a dog that's quite pushy, that will move a big gang of sheep. But obviously, in a competition, you've only got 5 sheep or maybe 3 sheep even, and you have to be so precise. So you need a dog that can do, a different skill set for each setting. And some dogs are brilliant; they will do both. But then you have some dogs that prefer, a big gang of sheep and are quite pushy, and you've got some dogs that are a bit more classy and a bit more stylish that will suit, three sheep. So at the moment, my dogs are all kind of that farm dog that are moving big flocks of sheep and things. So I'm trying to find my next competing dog, which will be able, hopefully, to do the both.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, how much of that is in the training, and how much is in the instinct of the dog? So, do you know from a young age whether this particular dog will be more suited to one or the other?
From a young age. You can see, often dogs who are quite stylish, so that means they've got like quite a bit of eye. So they're instead of kind of going around in circles, they're kind of more creeping up on the sheep. So that's what we kind of describe as having an eye. And they
Okay.
tend to be more stylish and they tend to be more suited for they quieten the sheep down. So when they are behind the sheep bringing them to you, they're kind of more careful and they make the sheep, so they kind of make the sheep quiet. Where maybe a dog that hasn't got that style or that eye will be a bit more flexible. They kind of move and they kind of push the sheep a bit more. So I think, yeah, you can in your training, you do try and train for different techniques, but yeah, it's all how the dog is from the start. It's kind of a natural instinct. It's hard to kind of put that into a dog, or maybe, yeah, it is a difficult one. And it's difficult to find that perfect dog to do both. It is difficult. But it's just, yeah, not giving up, and hoping the next one will be suitable.
Yeah. How does it feel to win one man and his dog for Wales and bring that back home?
Yeah, that was quite a moment. And obviously, I don't know, I was only young at the time, and my Sam was the name of the dog I had, and he was just, oh, he's a lovely, lovely dog. I really enjoyed handling him, and the buzz you get when you're standing by that post, and you know all the people are watching you behind, and all the cameras, and things are actually going like quite, like things are going right for a change, because
Yeah.
with competing, you have to be ready to win or lose. Like, you never know. You can have the best dog in the world, but if the sheep play up on the day, then you're doomed from the start. So when things are going perfect on the field, that buzz you feel is amazing, and bringing it back home to Wales as well or something else. It's always it's always a really proud moment when you're representing your country.
We've spoken a little bit about politics, but I am interested with your NFU Cymru hat on in terms of where you see, and there are lots at the moment, and yeah, we discuss a lot of these on the show, but where do you see the biggest challenges currently facing Welsh farmers, especially the livestock sector? Is it coming from that policy level? Is it economics? Is it climate? Where's it sitting for you?
So yeah, that is a difficult question because we've got all these challenges surrounding us at the moment, from the sustainable farming scheme being one, quite controversial, to the inheritance tax, to the budget. So yeah, there's all sorts. But I think, and this is quite probably in line because this is what I'm doing in a few days. I'm speaking at a conference about land use. So I think it's quite
Okay.
yeah, I think I realised as well the difficulties or the challenges that lie ahead with the land availability, because obviously, we can't create any more land, and we've got so many people wanting to do different things. We're being from Welsh government point of view, as I've spoken before, they want to plant all these trees. Where are they going to plant them? Well, it's going to be on farmland, isn't it? So it's trying to see how we can move forward, um, and not, compromise productivity. I think there's a recent report being published, and it's like an outlook to 2050, and it fears that if we carry on, there'll be 23% less agricultural land available, and the effect then I think it decreases um, our self-sufficiency by 12% if we lose this much land. And I think already there's
Blimey.
771,000 hectares being taken away from the agricultural industry, towards another land use change.
What's the name of that report? I'd like to dig that up.
In published, you're testing me on my notes already, and it's not even been yet. I was expecting from the audience, not from the podcast. So let's see. So it's a UK food security report, an
Oh, of
outlook
course.
to
Yeah.
2050. That is a parliamentary report, and that's been commissioned. And it's just, yeah, it's been an eye opener really. Obviously we're hearing in the news all the time that we're wanting to plant trees, or that people are wanting, or companies are wanting land for renewable energy, solar panels, etc. And I think it's a really challenging time, I think, now, having to think and work out strategically, where are we going to, which land we're going to take, and if yeah, I suppose from a farmer's point of view, I'm kind of thinking, is there a need to take land at all? Because obviously, as farmers, we're managing the soil, which is one of the biggest carbon storage we have. So yeah, there's a big debate, I think, being taken place of how we move forward and how we use our land in the future.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I think land use it's one of those lesser spoken about. I mean, I know, organisations like the Food Farming Countryside Commission have been on and on about this for a long time. But definitely, yeah, land use strategies, land use, and the way that it goes, and of course, all those other industries in the countryside as well. The forestry sector would be the most obvious one there. That debate between sectors. I think it's the big topic that we're perhaps not putting quite enough airtime on. So yeah, thank you for raising that. It's something we will definitely return to.
From the point of view of, Wales, I think we're quite unique in terms of our farming kind of, our farming structure. So, the average farm size is 49 hectares here in Wales. So we've got a lot of family farms. And, the problem is we've seen it happen already. So that a lot of the land around me is now forestry, where there used to be a family farm. And Wales as agricultural sector, it underpins the economy, our communities, the Welsh language. It's so
Language, yeah.
important for here in Wales, and keeping our rural communities. And I think the transition now to being net zero, it needs to be a just transition. It needs to be fair for everybody, and especially the rural sector. And it's not fair that they take all the burden of having to achieve that. So yeah, moving forward, it needs to be fair, because agriculture, as an industry, it's so important for our rural communities.
I'm going to ask that really annoying question now that you occasionally get in life. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? What would you like that future to look like?
Oh gosh, well, in 10 years' time, well, to be honest, I never had imagined the journey so far. It's taken me to all sorts of places. As a farmer, I thought, well, I love being outdoors, and I thought, well, I'm going to spend all my life now in wellies, but it's not been the case. I've been to London countless times in my best clothes, and trying to voice my opinions and stand up for agriculture in Wales. And it's something I didn't intend on doing, but it's something that's kind of come naturally with having so much passion for the industry. So yeah, 10 years time, I'm not sure. I'm hoping I'll have a family of my own, and it's been looking now for the next generation, although it's scary to say. But I think it's always, as a farmer or as business, you'd always want to be looking ahead to the
Yep.
future and making sure it's viable for them, as well as making an income for myself. So I'm hoping, the diversification will be will be going well. It's something I'm really excited about and passionate about sharing the Welsh story to other people. And it's been, yeah, so far it's been lovely to have people on farm and to take an interest in what we do and showcase. And I think as well, what they've found really amazing is how sustainable we are. They look around and they see all these green spaces, the trees, and they can't believe how green it is here in Wales, which I'm sure, compared to parts of America, yeah, they would be saying that. And also, they couldn't believe our traceability, how we could trace all our animals, and down when you buy a piece of meat, you could potentially trace it back to the farm it was born, and all that sort of thing. I think it's an important story to share. So obviously, yeah, I would be like to for that side of the business to continue. And yeah, with my role with NFU, hopefully that will develop, and and still be voicing, yeah, my concerns for the farming industry. So a lot of different things. And also with the media as well. I do a bit on
Hmm.
social media, and recently have a job, progressing in the radio industry, as well as different broadcasting things. So yeah, hopefully that side will develop as well. I don't know. It's hard to say, but obviously my main passion lies in the farm, and for that to be, for the sheep and the cattle to be thriving and to be progressing is something that's really important for me, and the land as well. A lot of work have been done to improve our pastures, reseeding, etc. So hopefully, yes, seeing things progress.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure your future will be very bright. It's definitely a challenging time, but I think it's also, and lots of people tell me this, it's a very exciting time, I think, in the industry as well. Any time of change is. And as we move through this and get through this, 10 years' time, who knows where we will be? But there's always positive there for people who can find it. I'm going to ask you the final two questions I ask everyone who comes on the show. It's been great having you on. The first is, if you had a message for the public, any message, what would it be, Erin?
Oh, time has flown, isn't it? I can't believe it on the last two
Yeah.
questions. But my message to the public, and I think we've covered these sort of things before, is just try and voice how amazing the agricultural industry is. And it really is. So many passionate people, and yeah, we see our faults. We know that we could be better in terms of the environment, or how our greenhouse gas emissions. We know we're one of the lowest in the world, but still, there's room to be improving. We need to be reaching that net zero target that has been given to us. But I think we're wanting to do so. We're passionate to be doing so, and we're passionate for our future. And And I think that message should be coming across to the consumer, sorry, that the producer is wanting to be farming sustainably and wanting to be producing that best quality piece of meat. And when they're buying a piece of meat, that it's the story behind it, isn't it? It's that family farm who's produced it. It's that family farm that, that when you're buying that piece of meat, it's who you're supporting, isn't it? And obviously you're supporting rural communities as well, especially here in Wales, and just selling our story, isn't it? And it's a really important and exciting story to be sharing, and just bringing that kind of divide between the food you have on your plate and the person who's produced it is something that's important as well.
Hmm. Yeah, telling the farming story. It's a key thing. It's something that you've alluded to as well. You're very much involved with yourself, and there are sort of hints of that within this final one as well. But a message to farmers.
So a message to farmers. I think it's just keeping our heads up, keeping motivated, being excited for the future. I think, I know we've talked about challenges, but it's also something a great industry to be involved in. And I've found for myself there's so many opportunities to be, as NFU being one of them, to being involved in the NFU or other different organizations. There's so many opportunities, and it's taken me, I've been to Italy, I've spoken at G7 agricultural meetings about doing recommendations for them. I never thought I'd reach there. But the opportunities that are in the agriculture industry is amazing, and to try and grasp onto every opportunity you get, which will develop both your home farm and also yourself personally in your career.
Yeah, I have to say it's watching your story from afar. It's something that I think you are definitely one of those people who are very good at that word opportunity and grasping them. Erin, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thanks so much for making the time. You're a very busy person, so yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
No, no problem at all. I've really enjoyed myself, and well, at the moment my dog's barking, wanting to go out, so it's probably time for me to go and finish my jobs. But no, lovely talking to you.
Yeah, that is the time, I think, to have the mic drop moment. We'll leave it there. That's it for today. A huge thanks to my guest, Erin McNaught, for coming on the show. Thank you also for listening. Please subscribe to the show wherever you're listening or watching. If you're watching on YouTube, that really helps us to grow the show. Next time, we will be down in the Southwest. We'll be in Devon, and I'll be joined by Trev from the Sheep Show. But for now, I'm Ben Eagle. This has been Meet the Farmers, and thank you very much for listening.